Hello once again. We're here with Course 2 Math Notebook and we're doing Lesson 50 today. Our title of Lesson 50 is Unit Multipliers and Unit Conversions. Lesson 50, what do we have here? We have a chicken loving on its little chick, and you can see the little heart. Maybe you can't see it. We'll zoom in on that chicken. It's a hen. Oops, where'd she go? Where'd she go? Focus, 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 focus. Not gonna do it. There we go. It's a hen loving on her little chick. Isn't that cute? All right, get your table of contents open. Write down Lesson 50. You should be on, I think, page 135 in your table of contents, 135. And our last lesson, Lesson 49, only took one page. One page. So here we are, Lesson 50, page 135. This is Lesson 50, so you know what that means. It means we have a test coming up, a test right after this lesson. Unit multipliers and unit conversions. Nothing to be afraid of, my dear children. Unit multipliers. Gonna use our pliers and just pinch things together and figure it out. And also unit conversions. And I want you to know that these things baffled me clear up until I was actually even a teacher. And finally, because I had to teach this stuff, I had to sort it out. I had to figure it out. And now it's not frightening. I know exactly how to do it for the most part. But the secret is you have to memorize your units. All right, I'm going to start out by reminding us that we can reduce fractions by breaking it into products of primes. And you're going to say, what in the world does that have to do with anything? But it does. If we think of 24, and we do our little tree chart here, 24, I'm going to do 6 and 4, and then I know that 6 is 2 and 3, and 4 is 2 and 2. So 24 is 2, 2, 2, which is also 8, times 3. And I'm making sure we got 2, 2, 2, and 3. And then what is 36? Well, let's look at 36. If I know 36, that's 6 times 6. And I like to work with squares when I'm doing this. Makes it a whole lot easier. That would be 3 times 2, and that would be 3 times 2. So we have 2, 2, 3, 3. 2, 2, 3, 3. Now, what do we know about fractions like that? We've already learned that we can reduce. That 2 over 2 is equivalent to a great big giant 1. And 1 times anything, using the identity property of multiplication, is the same thing. They're equivalent fractions. So we can do the crossing off top and bottom, and in this case we've reduced the fraction to 2/3. But we have crossed off top and bottom. Whether you realized it or not, we actually do the same thing with unit measures. Let's say that I have 5 feet over 1, and I'm going to multiply that by 12 inches. I want to know how many inches 5 feet is. Well, I use what's called a unit multiplier. It is equivalent to 1. 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. See how you have to know this stuff? So 12 inches is equivalent to 1 foot. You can cross off top and bottom up here. We also cross off a top and a bottom here. So now, instead of the feet still lingering, they magically, poof, disappear. And we're left with 5 times 12 inches, which is 60 inches, and 1 times 1 is 1. So 5 feet with our unit multiplier is 60 inches. And give me a break, Mrs. Rutherford. Most of you knew that already on your own. But it is set as an example for us as to what we're doing. In your textbook, they're going to ask you to name 2 unit multipliers. So for instance, if I have 3 feet is equivalent to 1 yard. What are the 2 unit multipliers? Name 2 unit multipliers. This is what they're going to ask you to do over and over again in the Saxon book. What I'm going to show you means you don't have to mess with this. But for their questions, you will need to know. So the 2 unit multipliers out of 3 feet and 1 yard is simply this. 3 feet is equivalent to 1 yard. That's one of them. 1 yard is equivalent to 3 feet. There you have your 2 unit multipliers. But the way I'm going to show you how to set up your conversions, which is the other thing we're doing here, conversions, you don't have to try to remember, and then which one should I use? Oh dear, which one should I use? If you set your problems up the way I'm going to show you, you do not need to even remember and try to figure out which one is which. Well, let's do something very simple like this. Let's convert 240 yards, and we want to know how many feet that is, okay? 240 yards, how many feet? This is the way you're going to set it up. You're going to write 240 yards, and you're going to put it over 1 is equal to how many feet? Then out in front, notice I've got some space here. Out in front, I'm going to put my unit multiplier. What is it that I want? I want to know how many feet. That's what goes on top. What is it I'm trying to get rid of? I'm trying to get rid of the yards. So remember, we cross off a top and a bottom. Yards on the bottom. Now in this scenario they will cross off and I'll be left with feet, just like when we did up farther on. But the one thing I have to know is the relationship between feet and yards. And we're trying to go for one of those has a 1. Which is the larger unit? Feet or yards? Yards is a larger unit. That's the one that needs to be a 1. And how many feet is equivalent to 1 yard? 3. Now remember up here we had 2 over 2 and it equals 1? Doesn't 3 feet over 1 yard, isn't that equivalent to 1? It is. So by multiplying anything by 1, we're still creating equivalence. We can still keep our equal sign because the identity property of multiplication says any number times 1 is the same number. We're just converting units. That's all we're doing. So these yards will cancel yards. Top and bottom will cancel. And all that I'm left with is feet. And now I simply have to do the little math calculation, 240 times 3. And you can even estimate. 24 is close to 25, and 3 times 25 would be 75 times 10, 750. Is that going to be the accurate number? No, that's just an estimate to see if we're on the right track. 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 4 is 12, carry the 1, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 720 is pretty close to our estimate, and after all, 240 is less than 250, so we wind up with 720 feet is the conversion. 240 yards is 720 feet. All right, let's try something else. What if I have 240 feet this time, and I want to know how many yards that is? Now over here I said put this closer together and put the unit multiplier out front. You can do it either way as long as you need to know that you're going to need a unit multiplier. Here the unit multiplier went in front. Here we're going to do our unit multiplier after the number, but you have to leave space for it. Again, we put our original number over 1. Anything over 1 is the same number. What is it that we want? We want yards, so yards is going to go on top. And this is where I differ from Saxon. Saxon's going to say, oh, you have to choose between which unit multiplier it is. The easy way is, what do I want? I want yards, so yards is what goes on top. And what am I trying to get rid of? feet. So feet goes on the bottom. Now all I have to do is remember the relationship. Which one of these is the larger unit? Yards is the larger unit, so that takes the 1. And how many feet are in a yard? 3. Well, look, we got the same thing, 3 feet, 1 yard. We've just flipped it, yes? Because now we're converting feet to yards. Here we were converting yards to feet. We're using the same unit multipliers, one of the two, and this time feet will cancel feet, and we're left with the yards that we want. And we already know that 240 times 3 is 720, but we're not multiplying this time. What are we actually doing? This is underneath, so this actually is dividing. Can we do some reducing here? Can we do some crossing off? Do you suppose that 240 is divisible by 3? How do we know it's divisible by 3? Well, it ends in a 0, so it's divisible by 5 or 10. But if we add the numbers together, 2 and 4 makes 6. And 6 plus 0 is 6, and 6 is divisible by 3. So we should be able to go evenly into those. I happen to know, just like you know, the 0 is going to stay here, and 3 goes into 24 how many times? What goes into 24 3 times? 8, right? So now we have 80 yards on the top. Oh, I wish I had my easy button. We could hit that was easy. Which one of you wants to hit the easy button? That's pretty cool, isn't it? All right. Hey, we're going to get this done in maybe 1 page here too. I don't know. Let's look and see. 2 lessons in a row. That'd be pretty magical, wouldn't it? And right now we're at 11 minutes. That's because I've done some extra explaining. An Olympic event in track and field is a 100-meter dash. When I was in junior high, no, actually high school, my freshman year, but I was still 12 or 13 years old, just like many of you. In track, I ran the 100-yard dash. That's what we were doing it back then in the 1970s. 100-yard dash, and I was the fastest one in my school for well over 20 years. So that record stood. 100-meter dash, and they want to know how many yards is a meter. Wait a minute. Mrs. Rutherford, you told us we probably wouldn't be mixing measures. Meters and yards, those are 2. This is metric, this is standard. Well, if you look, I'm going to give you that 1 meter is approximately 1.1 yards. And there is our unit multiplier right there. 1 meter is approximately 1.1 yards. So if I want to know how many yards, remember Mrs. Rutherford ran the 100-yard dash? Well, how does that compare to a 100-meter dash? I'm going to say 100 meters over 1 multiplied by some unit multiplier is equal to how many yards? All right, what is it that I want? I want yards, so yards is going to go on the top. What is it I don't want? I don't want meters, so that goes on the bottom, so I can cross them off. Now, what's our relationship here? They said that 1 meter, okay, so there's my 1 meter, is 1.1 yards. 1.1 yards. Our meters will cross off. Oh, they've made this so easy for you. Look at this. The yards is going to say, but 100 times 1.1. Because we've been doing so much work with decimals, you all know that 100 times a number with a decimal means we're making it 100 times bigger. We're moving the decimal to the right. How many places? 1 place for every 0. So 2 places to the right. So there's 1 place. Here's the other place. Our decimal is right there. So how many yards is a 100-meter dash? It is a 110 yard. And I can tell you every single yard you have to run after you think you've finished the race just wears you out that much more. I did the 50-yard dash in 6.1, and I did the 100-yard dash in 12.4. That's seconds, guys. 100 yards in 12 seconds. And I could beat my 8th grade boys at a foot race clear up until I was 40 years old. Take that. All right, so I guess we are going to have to turn the page. We're moving on to page 136. 136. And this is lesson 50 continued. And I just want to do one or two more samples with you. It says that Tim can sprint 9 yards per second. That sounds like a rate to me. Sounds like a rate. Rate times time. No, yeah, rate times time equals a distance. Tim can run 9 yards per second. That's a rate. It's also a ratio. We can write that as 9 yards in 1 second. So that's a rate or a ratio. But the question says we need to figure out how many feet per second. How many feet per second? Well, once again, this is what we've got. What is it that we need? We need feet, not yards. All right? So let's get rid of the yards by putting it on the bottom. We want feet, so we're going to put feet on the top. And once again, what's the relationship between feet and yards? Which one is the larger unit? Yards. So that becomes 1. And how many feet are in 1 yard? 3. Okay. These two cancel. And look what we have, guys. We have feet per second. And that's what we have left. Feet per second. So we're right on target here. 1 times 1 is 1. And 3 times 9 is 27. Do you know our classroom, when we're in it, is 30 feet long? Tim can run the length of that classroom in 1 second. So if we got him started down there by the office in the hallway at school, if we got him started by the office and had him do a good run, and then we clocked him at the front door of the classroom and clocked him as he went by the second door of the classroom, he would have done that length in 1 second. Actually, maybe just a little bit more. So there's our answer. And while I'm distracting you with all kinds of stories about Tim running in the halls, no running in the halls, Mrs. Rutherford. Yes, I know. Hopefully you'll catch on that we can also write 27 feet per second like this. Feet per second. Okay? So that's another way to write that. Hey, well, I've got you. I'm looking at the practice set. A, B, and C says write 2 unit multipliers for each pair of equivalent measures. And then they tell you that 1 yard is equal to 36 inches. And then they tell you that 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. You should know these already. And then they tell you, this is one you may not know, but you need to be memorizing it. 16 ounces is 1 pound. And how we get pound from LB, some smart person can look that up and tell me. It's probably a carryover from when we were in English colony, but whatever. There you go. And the 2 unit multipliers that they want for each one of these things, guys, remember, you really don't need this. You're going to write 1 yard, start again. You're going to write 1 yard over 36 inches, and then you're going to write 36 inches over 1 yard. All that they're trying to do is help you to realize that both of these are equivalent. 1 yard is 36 inches, so this is a great big giant 1, and 36 inches is 1 yard, so that's also a great big giant 1. They are equivalent units. You can flip them around interchangeably, just the same as 2 over 2. Oh, let's flip that around. Is the same as 2 over 2. It's the same number. It's just that we have different units. So you know what to do with this, right? 100 centimeters over 1 meter and 1 meter over 100 centimeters. 16 ounces over 1 pound, 1 pound over 16 ounces. You'll know what to do with that when you get to A, B, and C. Letter D asks you to convert 10 yards. Anytime they tell you to convert 10 yards or any number, leave a space and put the conversion, the unit conversion in there, and they want you to convert 10 yards to inches. Okay, 10 yards to inches. We put our 10 yards over 1. What is it that we want? We want inches, so that's what goes on top. What are we trying to get rid of? So we put the yards on the bottom. And now we need the equivalent unit. Well, wait a minute. We just found out that 1 yard is 36 inches. See how that nicely fits in here? 1 yard is 36 inches. The yards will cancel. We're left with inches. And 10 times 36, guys, you're just moving the decimal point or simply adding a 0, is 360 inches. Wasn't that easy? Now, letter F farther down, they ask you which is greater. Is 20 inches greater, or is 50 centimeters? Oh, that's an interesting question. Now they're really mixing us up. And they are going to tell you, they give you in parentheses, that 1 inch is approximately 2.54 centimeters. And I want to tell you right now, this number 2.54 is one you're going to be using pretty much the rest of your mathematical career. So you might as well memorize it. 1 inch is approximately 2.5 or 2.54 centimeters. You guys have remembered and memorized 3.14, and you know that 3.14 is pi, right? Equivalent to pi. There's lots of little things like that that we remember, but please remember this one too. 2.54 centimeters is equivalent to 1 inch. So let's do the conversions here. Let's take 20 inches. We're going to multiply by some unit multiplier and try to come up with how many centimeters so that we can tell what it is. I'm going to put 20 over 1. I want centimeters, so I'm going to put centimeters on the top. I don't want inches, so I'm going to put inches on the bottom. What they gave us is 1 inch, so there's my 1, is 2.54 centimeters. 2.54 centimeters. What do I have to do? The inches are canceled. I've got my centimeters. I simply multiply 2.54 by 20. Hint, hint. You're multiplying by 2 and moving the decimal point one place. And you can tell, then this will be centimeters. So you'll know how many centimeters this is, and then you can make the comparison. Is 50 centimeters greater? Or is 20 inches, which is how many centimeters, greater? And you can make your greater than or less than signs to do that right there. Letter G asks you to convert 20 miles per gallon to miles per quart. You'll be doing 20 miles per 1 gallon, and they want you to convert that to how many miles per quart. Oh no, 20 miles per gallon quart. So what's changing? The miles is staying the same, isn't it? What's actually changing? The gallons. So this time, boy, they're challenging you a little bit. Watch carefully. This time, I want quarts, right? And the quarts is on the bottom. Oh my goodness, so that's where I'm going to put the quarts. And what am I trying to get rid of? Gallons. So I've got to put a gallons on the top, because a gallons on the bottom will cancel a gallons on the top, and these will stay the same. Now our 20 miles, the miles stays the same. We don't have to worry about that yet. We'll be worrying about that later. Do you remember how many quarts are in a gallon, and which one is the larger unit, gallons or quarts? Gallons is larger, so that's going to be our 1. And how many quarts are in a gallon? Thank you. I hear you telling me that. It's 4 quarts to the gallon. So now our gallons have canceled. Oh, look, we can take 4 into 20, can't we? We can take 4 into 20, and now we have 1 times 5 miles is 5, and this is a 1 times 1 is 1. So if we're getting 20 miles to the gallon, then that is actually 5 miles per, and this is not real, they don't generally do this like this, 5 miles per quart. You would actually write that out. There's a letter H, which talks about Diana's heartbeat, 60 beats per minute, how many beats per hour. And you can do this, my young cherubs. This has been a 25-minute video, so I will say farewell to now. Remember, there is a test coming. We've hit lesson 50, so our next thing is test 9. Get ready.